Welcome back to the Homestead here on Saturday morning. Sun shining outside. We're out in the woodworking shop. We really do want to reach out and say we appreciate you guys taking the time to watch our videos. We have a lot of fun making them, but our real goal is to try to just instill a little confidence in you that you can do these things too. Part of homesteading is learning to do things that you may not be comfortable doing or familiar with doing. Learning to do these things for yourselves. A little bit of auto mechanics, some woodworking, taking care of animals, whatever that case may be. If you're going to live on a smaller income, lesser income, however you want to say that, you're going to have to learn to do some of these things for yourselves. So anyway, we wanted to show you some of the things we've done. We're setting up this woodworking shop because we enjoy woodworking, but also we see that as a way to make a little bit of money, maybe building some stuff and selling it, patio furniture, picnic tables, dressers, chairs, whatever it may be. We really enjoy doing this, and we do believe there is a market for that, and that's part of that, sustainable program. So we're going to talk mostly about the Outfeed table today that we've built, but we're starting to get the shop set up how we want it. You'll notice that we're starting to get some stuff hung up on the walls over here. We got our pocket hole jig up there. We got a shelf for our tape measures and stuff. And, we got some clamps and screws. So we're really just starting to feel out how we want this set up. But one of the things I knew we wanted was a decent Outfeed table, and then we needed a good assembly table. And in our case, this building is pretty good size for a woodworking shop, honestly. It's I think 18 feet, 19 feet by, I think it's 19 feet wide by 30 feet long. I know it's 30 feet long. I can't remember if it's 18 or 19 feet this way, but it's pretty good size, right? So one of the things we decided though was to combine the Outfeed table and the assembly table into one. I set out here, really I struggle sometimes with not writer's block, but designer's block, if you will. Like, where do we want to put everything? When you're doing a kitchen, it's pretty simple. You want your triangle, you want your refrigerator, your sink, your stove, whatever. You kind of have that workflow. And that's sort of what you got to think about when you're building a workshop. You want to think about the very first step is your material coming in the door. And you can't see it behind you, but right directly behind you is a 9-foot wide garage door coming into the woodworking shop. So the way it's laid out, and thanks to Sue, this was Sue's idea to have the table saw going this way. I actually kept thinking it had to go the other way. So now the sheet goods come in through the door, go right through the table saw and right onto the assembly table. So that's sort of where we're at. What we decided to do with the assembly table / Outfeed table was go 4 feet by 8 feet for the top. We have the room for it. It's convenient. We like to build some things that's a larger, like we do some raised beds, we do some picnic table stuff. Not that we'd build a picnic table up here, but you might build a top up here and then move it over behind you there in the open space and put the legs on it. So what we did is we started with a lot of 3/4 inch poplar plywood and a piece of MDF, 3/4 inch MDF. We went with the MDF for the top, mostly just for stability, and it's a little more forgiving, if you will. And then we wrapped the top with some used 1x4 we had that we ripped down. So what we did is we made a base out of 3/4 inch plywood, about 4 inches tall, and we made a framework out of that. We put a piece of 3/4 inch plywood on top of that, and then we put legs in that so we could level it and get it to the height we want. Then we put an end cap out of 3/4 inch plywood and dividers out of 3/4 plywood. We'll show you that in a minute. And then we did a sandwich on the top of 3/4 inch plywood and 3/4 inch MDF, glued and screwed together. So it's nice and flat, nice and solid. I mean, I can get up on this and jump up and down and it doesn't move. We will be connecting it to the table saw. Right now there is no physical connection. We will connect that in the near future. We're also going to be putting probably a wooden top in here for a router table. You can actually buy the cast iron extension, but it's almost $400, and we have all these pieces of plywood, so we'll probably do the same thing. We'll probably laminate 2 or 3 pieces together, route in the piece for the router insert, and just bolt it in there. So I think what we'll do is we'll get the camera off the tripod. Sue's going to follow me around, and we'll just kind of walk around this once and show you, what our plan is here. All right, so we're going to bring you in. Basically what we have compartments under here that we can use for storage. So our plan is probably to put an adjustable shelf in this one, And we'll have it for like our dado blades, our regular saw blades can hang on the side, you know, our tenoning jig. Things that we use on the table saw regularly, we'll probably put in under here. This one here for now, I don't know exactly what it'll be long term, but right now we have our Craig pocket hole screws. We have a couple routers. We may or may not put a shelf in there depending on what we decide to use on it. And some of these may or may not get doors. We just don't know yet. We're not a big fan of covering everything up. We don't really care if you see the tools. The reason for the doors for us would be if we don't want it to get dusty. This compartment here, we're gonna set up all of our nail guns that we don't really use in a woodworking shop. And what I mean by that is our boss stitch framing nailers if we're gonna go build a house, our roofing nailers if we're gonna shingle a roof. We have nail guns that do the joist hanger nails, fencing nail guns. We have, from our years in the carpentry industry, we have a lot of nail guns. So that's probably where those are all gonna go. Just in there, out of the way. We know where they all are. If we need a nail gun, we come in here, it's in there. The ones that we use in a woodworking shop, like our finish nailer, our brad nailer, our 1/4 inch crown stapler, we'll probably find a place on the wall here. We're still kind of getting familiar with how we want to lay this out, where we want to be able to go grab tools. So we'll come around the edge. We just use 3/4 inch pine for a face frame because again, it is just cabinet, shop furniture. It is not going in the living room. Again, same thing. We have a couple empty cabinets over here. We still don't know exactly what we'll do with those, but they're there. And trust me, we'll fill them up. You'd never have too much space. And then the last one here, we've actually put our air compressor in there. We could plumb this whole shop up for air, but we don't use a lot of air tools in the woodworking, you know, shop here. So we'll probably just get one of those, you know, like spring slinky hoses, leave it plugged in there and just hang it up under here. And that way when we're building something, we can grab the hose and we can do our work. Probably right about where you're standing now with the, you know, you as in our viewers, is where the dust collector will go. Either just to your right or just to your left. We're not 100% sure yet. But in that corner, as Sue's showing you now, is where the electrical service is for the building. So we can't really put anything right up against that. So we may put the dust collector right here. And then I think we're going to put the wood lathe right here under the mini split. And that's going to make a nice flow. And we'll end up running some dust collection pipe, cleaning up our mess, of course. And we'll get a 240 volt drop over to this table saw. Right now it's got a piece of SO cord laid across the floor. But what we'll do is we'll chase across with the dust collector and we'll get a 240 volt drop for this. We'll get 120 volt power over here that we'll end up putting a, you know, something on the bottom side of this with a couple of receptacles. So if you want to use a router, you can plug a router into either side. The air compressor can stay plugged in. So we'll end up electrifying this table underneath of it so you can plug stuff in. We're still not quite sure how we're going to get there from here. We could just come right across the floor. This probably won't be a high traffic area. We could come down, but if we come down, we have to make sure we stay away from the blade enough to be able to get sheet goods through. Or we could actually come over here and come down somewhere. Because this planer won't be here, it's going to get relocated. You know, with the router table here, we could come somewhere down over in here as long as we leave room to use the router table. So we're still figuring some of that out. So anybody's got any suggestions, leave them down below. But basically what we do is we just sit here sometimes and look at it and say, hey, I think this works. It can be overwhelming at times, but if you come out and just say, I'm going to build a clamp rack today, and I'm going to hang up my bar clamps. And you spend 30 minutes, you do that, and you go back and you feel accomplished. You've got something off the floor, you've got something on the wall. Same thing with the screws. We had some brackets we picked up at Home Depot, and I had a piece of maple. And I said, hey, well, let's build a little shelf and put our screws up there that we use. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We're gonna get the table saw how we want it. Everything's level. We basically made the Outfeed table about 1/8 of an inch lower than the table saw so that things won't catch. We also plowed our grooves in the Outfeed table so that when we build our sleds for cross-cutting, they have some place to slide out in there without catching or binding. We did make them extra wide, so there will be no binding. And yeah, I think that's it. We'll probably put a bench vise on it. I don't know if we'll ever put any T-track in it. Don't really see that at the moment, but who knows. So that's kind of a tour of where we're at right now in the woodworking shop. We'll probably bring you back here, in a few more days when we got a little bit more done. We got the miter saw station done, as you saw in a previous video, and we're going to have to build a mobile base for the planer and get the planer cleaned up. As you can see, these tools have been sitting in storage for a few years, and there's a fair amount of rust on that cast iron. So you'll notice the table saw looks good. That looked the same way. We cleaned that up. That'll clean right up. We've just got to get at it, and we got to get our drill press and our bandsaw and everything else set up. So we hope you enjoyed the tour of the wood shop and the outfeed table. We know we didn't bring you along for a build video on the outfeed table, but it was kind of big. We didn't have an assembly table to build it on, so Sue and I were kind of just working where we could, how we could, and we just wanted to get it done. And we weren't really sure how it was going to turn out. I mean, we didn't follow any plans or any designs. Basically, I just said in my mind, I want a 4x8 top. So I knew that meant I needed some space on the sides, because you don't want your sides to be flush all the way down, because then you don't have any place to put your body when you're working. So as you can see, if you look under here, I mean, I'm in under there quite a bit with my leg and my knee and my foot. If that was out there, you'd be kind of like reaching over all the time. So we said, okay, we're going to build the base 3 feet wide. And at the last minute, Sue reminded me we wanted this end not to be out flush. So we have that same 6 inches right here as we do on the sides. So we altered things, and that's why one space is a little shorter than the other two, because we'd already done our math based on that going the whole way. And I just didn't bother to redesign it because, well, the air compressor fit perfectly in there, so it was actually a happy accident. And then we left about a foot here so that we can get our dust collector hooked to our table saw when we get it set up. We probably didn't need to leave quite a foot. We probably could have gone and got a 4-inch elbow, measured it, and figured it out. But the top is still really solid right there. It's not bouncy. So yeah, that's really why we didn't bring you along, because we really didn't know how it was going to turn out. We just kind of flew by the seat of our pants on this one. We had an idea what we wanted, and we just started cutting wood, making it work, and ended up here. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for listening to me ramble for 20 minutes here about the wood shop, but we're really excited to have this space, and we're really excited to do a lot of projects out here and bring you guys along. So any projects you guys can think that are exciting, put them down below, let us know. We'd like to try some new stuff, and we're getting really excited to build some garden furniture for the garden this summer. Sue will be giving you tours of that, but I think you've seen a little highlight of it now and then. But we kind of follow James Prigioni down in, I think it's New Jersey. We'll put a link to his channel down below. But we follow this food forest theory, and we have perennials, we have blueberry bushes, we have fruit trees, we have berries everywhere, and it's just randomly in places, and then so we're excited to build some outdoor furniture where, when we're out here hanging out, maybe having a beer or just wandering around the yard, we can stop and sit down on a bench, and beside you is a blueberry bush. You can pick a few blueberries, need them or whatever. So anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe.